I'm Logan Champagne, and we've been coming to fellowship for, I would say, probably 6-ish. So I guess really, when I was growing up, I was raised Catholic. We went to church sparingly. I was probably about 15 or 16 when really I started asking questions like, why do we do this? Why do we do that? Why do we do this? And I think, my confirmation teacher was just a guy, and so I would ask him questions and he'd say, well, that's just because that's what we believe. Well, that's what we believe. Well, why? So I guess being inquisitive in that environment and kind of getting not shut down, but just never really finding the answers. Instead of seeking them, I just didn't seek them anymore. After I got a cell phone, I never listened in church. It's kind of boring to me. Didn't really know what I wanted to get out of church. My real Christian story, I guess, begins when I met my wife. She kind of blindsided me. So I was hurt by a girl. I was trying to hurt girls. That was my thing. And then when I least expected it, I met my wife, who happened to be my best friend's sister. She had been off at college. We had never really had a conversation. She had just gotten out of a bad relationship, and we started talking about that. And I guess the first God wink I had was that she was babysitting this little girl, and the little girl came up to me and was like, "Hey, you need to come swimming with us tomorrow." And I was like, "Okay, whatever." Well, I didn't show up. Then I realized later on that she had told the little girl to tell me. And I was hesitant to go on a date with her because she was my best friend's sister. But I did. And that night, I told my mom I was going to marry her. And my mom called me crazy. But, man, from the moment I met her, I believed in God. There wasn't no way that there wasn't a higher force that led her to me when I needed her the most, There's no telling where I would have been had I kept down the road that I was going down. And really and truly, we needed each other. It wasn't just I needed her, she needed me, we needed each other. So her dad is a Baptist minister. He was preaching at Proctor Baptist at the time. He was real quick to get ready for me to be saved, and rightfully so. I was marrying his daughter. We had we dated for 6 months and got engaged, and she lived in Katy and I lived here. We did a distance thing for a year, and when she got back, we decided that we would go to church at Proctor. I did accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior, and I did get baptized. I say, you're washed by the water, you come out new. I didn't really come out new. It was so fresh to me. I was doing it. I honestly was doing it because I thought that's what everybody wanted me to do. I felt like I was betraying my parents and my family to do something that should have been the most glorious day of my life. Come to find out, there were a bunch of side conversations. My grandma had pulled my wife off to the side and had told her, "Get him back in church. I don't care where. I don't care how. Just get him back." So the next 3 or 4 years were kind of just like, you go through the motions, you go to church. We got pregnant with my son. And when we got pregnant with my son, we moved to Hillcrest, and immediately it was the right move. Patrick was the pastor there at the time, and there's something about when you meet the first person that opened your eyes. But Patrick he came and sat in my living room and talked to us for 2.5 hours and answered every question that we had. And that meant a lot to me, to feel welcome, I guess. So we went to church every Sunday for a good while, and then Patrick left. My fire kind of burned out, and so did Amy's. But then we came here, and the very first sermon I ever heard Daniel preach was about the father is the leader of the house. However the father goes, the family goes. And there was so much conviction in that, so much raw conviction. I mean, I left here, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go to church there. Like, it just hit me so hard that I felt kind of judged, and not judged, but I guess it was like, it made me feel uncomfortable. And it's still, man, I'm ashamed of some of the things I've done in the past. I wish that moment had sparked me to be a better father, a better husband, a better man. I've always considered myself a good person, but that moment did not lead me to the point that I'm at right now. I was lukewarm for a long time. So lukewarm. I thought I wasn't, but then came the real trials, In 2023, I had a stroke. And TIA, stroke, whatever you want to call it. I was in ICU for 4 days on a drip. I lost my ability to speak for like 3 or 4 hours. That's scary. And for those 3 or 4 hours, I'm pretty sure I talked to God more than I ever talked to him in the last 35 years of my life, And honestly, I promised him that if he would let me speak again, that I would speak what needed to be spoken. So that was kind of the start of my change. Near-death experiences will do that to you, and I don't know exactly how close I was to dying, but I know I was close enough that my job here wasn't done yet. And so all that, the stroke and everything all stemmed from, I owned a company. I owned part of a company, a home health company, and we built it up into something that was something to be proud of, and in about 7 months, it just crashed. It all came crashing down. So I was worried about paying employees. I was worried about what I was going to do with my family. I was worried about all kind of things. And I had a few, I was a gambler. I gambled a little too much money. I racked up a lot of debt. Man, so many bad things that my wife didn't even know about. And my company filed bankruptcy. So I naturally chased the next thing. Somebody told me they wanted to start a hospice. So I jumped on that train, put all my eggs in that basket, failed, At that point in my life, I had already decided that I'm going to live a better life. Well, then it's really hard when I decided I was going to live a better life, and then it's like I was beat while I was down. There was no turning. There was no one. I had no one to turn to. My wife didn't know the problems. Couldn't tell my mom and dad because I felt like they would have been ashamed of me. So I internalized all of it, and those were dark months. I felt so guilty for the things that I had done, and I had a friend. I'll say his name. His name is Garrett Roy. He's a nurse practitioner. We went to elementary, middle school, everything. So when my company went bankrupt, I didn't work for 3 months, I guess. And he called me, and he was like, "Stop feeling sorry for yourself. You're better than this." And I am. I mean, I know I am. But when you're at that point, everything feels like a failure. So, all of the bad times were just starting. They weren't over. In December, we foreclosed on our house. We couldn't even decorate for Christmas because we had nowhere. I'll never forget the day. It was December 17th. And we had just gotten the notice that our house sold at auction for the first, and by the way, December 5th. My house went up for auction on December 6th. I told my wife we were losing our house on December 5th. I tried to fix it, and there was just no fixing it. And the most beautiful thing of all of it is she didn't even get mad. She looked at me and she said, "How are we going to fix it?" At that point, there was only one answer. We got to pray. We need God. We have nothing left. December 17th, we were getting ready to pack our stuff up, and I hit my knees on my bedroom floor. And I just said, let this be my fresh start. My son, he's 13, and the coolest thing that happened out of all that is he just looked at us and he was like, "Dad, these are just things." And he said, "I come home from school every day, and I know that you and Mom love me, and I know God's got my back." Those were his exact words. And I remember the gut punch of thinking, golly, my 13-year-old son is more mature about this than I am, I chased money. I wanted power in my job. I wanted to be the guy at the top. That's what I wanted more than anything else. I wanted that so bad that I forgot why. I'm a nurse, by the way. I forgot why I became a nurse in the first place. I forgot what it was like to help people, what it was like to be strength for someone when they needed it, to be there for people. I forgot. I feel like God's calling me somewhere to do something else. And so this job was going to give me that opportunity back, and I feel God called me strongly to this job because I told Garrett what was going on, and he just kept telling me, "Do what's best for your family. Do what's best for your family." Well, lo and behold, Garrett had already sold the company, and I didn't know, and he couldn't tell me. So I got out at just the right time, and I started this job. And that where I'm at now, spiritually, is I wake up every morning and say I'm going to share Jesus with at least one person every single day. Every day people will hear the story that I have and how we literally had nothing left but Jesus. Literally. And I was about 2 months into this job, and my son, Andrew, came to me and said, "You finally got your miracle." I had no idea what he was talking about. I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "When we moved in with Mimi and Paul, I laid in bed and I prayed that you would find your miracle." And then that Sunday, David preached, and the sermon was about waiting for your miracle. He said he didn't tell me about it because he said he felt like if he told me about it, that I would be anxious about waiting for it. And so from that point forward, he prayed for me not to be anxious waiting for my miracle. And then the happiness that I have now, I literally do the Lord's work every single day of my life. Every day I go into homes, to people who have no one, to people who have no hope, sometimes no family, no anything. And I get to give them the gift of Jesus every day. Every day I wake up knowing that I get to give the gift. I mean, I'm smiling about it now. I get to give the gift of Jesus to people every single day. And out of everybody I've given the gift of Jesus to, none of them have denied it. Every one of them can't wait for me to come back so that we can talk about Jesus some more. Since I started my job in June, 15 of my patients have been baptized. Not solely because of me, but from some of the conversations that we've had. I'm talking 80-year-olds, 75-year-old people who asked me to share the Bible with them, share my story with them. The thing about being a Christian is I was lukewarm for so long that I didn't know how much on fire you could feel whenever you're actually doing what you're supposed to do as a Christian. When you're going, I was so afraid of people making fun of me because I don't have the most biblical knowledge ever. But what I do know is through all those hard times, me and my wife turned to Jesus so many times. I listen to K-Love every day in my car. That's what I listen to all the time. And every time I hear a song that just, there's a Kane song coming back on the other side stronger. That song, I listen to those lyrics, and it's like the amount of joy that I have from all that I went through. I would go through it 20 times over again to make sure that I always know that I always have a seat at the table. That when things get tough, when life literally, the things that I struggled from, there are so many people struggling from those things, and you feel like you have nowhere to turn. And honestly, I should have told my wife all those problems, but in the grand scheme of things, I never turned to Jesus in those times. I always was so quick to say, why me, God? Why me? But I never took a look around and said, thank you for always offering me a seat at the table. Man, there were so many times that I thought I was too far gone from the right path. And I just realized you're never too far gone. That it's never too late to come home. 80-year-olds getting baptized. It's never too late to come home. And I think doing this job made me realize that. Made me realize that there are people out there who have so many worse afflictions and things than I had, but they're still turning to Jesus. It's just the unconditional love that we have that you don't even think about. You're not even aware of it half the time. I think that a lot of us we take it for granted, really, and I just know that I don't take it for granted anymore because I've been on the other side. In the grand scheme of things, my things weren't that bad, but they were debilitating to me. But that's kind of it.